Today we're going to be going through the capabilities enabled by a modern customer growth stack. And what we are going to be achieving today is three things. Firstly, outlining the problem we're all trying to solve, how others have used technologies to actually solve this problem, and then also showcase how the capability can come together to solve the problem for you. This event is sponsored by three partners, Servian, Mixpanel, and Segment, which we'll introduce a little later. My name is Marcus Lawford-Mars, and I'm an associate partner with Servian. And today I'll be hosting this event. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers today. We'll be hearing from Katie Merry, who's the product manager for MYOB, on how they use customer data to reduce churn and increase conversion rates. We'll also be hearing from Mike Salway, who's the principal product manager at Domain Group, on how they drive product improvements through user data insights. And we're also going to get an overview and live demo. We all love a live technical demo from Cyril Amsalam on how Segment's customer data platform unifies activity data across multiple touch points to generate insights and audience to activate in channel. And then finally, we're also going to get an overview and live demo from Edward Kong, who on how Mixpanel helps to surface and visualize and activate insights. Just very quickly, a little bit about Servian. Servian is Australia's leading data and analytics consultancy with over 12 years of experience in this domain. We've grown from quite humble beginnings back in the day with just 6 or 7 of us back in 2008 to almost 600 consultants now across 10 locations, including Australia, New Zealand, India, UK, and Singapore. And our mission is to enable our customers to use their data and analytics to build a competitive advantage. In our customer engagement pillar, which focuses on all things customer intelligence, customer experience, marketing, and engagement strategy, our mission is to leverage data and analytics to identify and activate key engagement opportunities at every stage of the customer journey. And to do this well, it takes more than just technology. It's about having the right data, people, processes, and technology all working together to know your customers, to know what they're doing, how they're feeling, and then when best to engage. Today, that mission sits with customer growth, which is about acquiring, retaining, and growing customers. Often customer growth lives in the intersection between marketing and product and the data and analytics team. And unlocking customer growth is about bringing marketing and product and data analytics together. So what's the difference between these two? Well, marketing and product typically have a channel view of the customer interactions across touchpoints. Sources include digital tracking on mobile and web, campaigning, voice of customer, for example, NPS, and their objectives are high levels of conversion through engaging customer experiences. Meanwhile, data analytics have a whole enterprise view of the customer, typically from back office systems, typically because they own these systems like your sales and service, your CRM, and your billing and accounting system. And they have similar objectives seen through a very different lens though. And this is high levels of conversion through retention and growth and profitable customers. So what do each provide about the customer? Well, marketing and product provides a channel view which captures real-time individual events. For example, page views, clicks, plays, open, shares, unsubscribes, calls, chat. However, data analytics supply more of the enterprise view, capturing typically batch bulk logs and transactions around product support, personal details, ordering, and invoicing. And frankly, these two teams need to work together in order to complete the picture and unlock real actionable insights. Because marketing and product, if I go the right way, with marketing and products channel view, that provides immediate insight about customers' current intent. Think of it as surface insights. It's what the customer is doing right now in the moment. For example, researching a product or playing with a pricing calculator or experiencing a technical fault. Data analytics, on the other hand, they provide more of the long-term insight about customers' current state and future intents and behaviors. Think of it more as deep insights as to what you don't really readily see that lies beneath the surface. It needs to be mined out of the various systems. For example, contact preferences, lifetime value, churn, demographics, propensity, segment, and product history, and so on. The requirements and capabilities for each team are vastly different as well. So marketing and product needs to be agile. They live in the customer moment. They need to be able to support, they need to be supported by non-technical, fast, self-serve access to real-time insight to achieve interesting and real-time customer engagement. Meanwhile, data and analytics need to be a little bit more sophisticated, more methodical. They need to be supported by highly technical, advanced analytics, often custom developed and processing huge amounts of data to generate longer term trends and deeper insights into where the customer is potentially heading based on their history. And today, these two teams, which practically share the same overall objective, work somewhat independent of one another, but they need to work collaboratively together in order to achieve contextual, timely, relevant, and consistent customer experiences to ultimately drive customer growth with a view to balance customer needs and business objectives. And that brings us to the focus of our presentation today. Our framework and two technology partners that bridge the gap between these two teams. We've got Serving Engaged CX framework, which helps organizations lay the foundations for data, people, processes, and technology. We've got Segment's customer data platform, which unifies activity data across multiple touch points to generate insights and then activate to channel. And we've also got Mixpanel's behavioral analytics platform to surface and visualize user and behavioral insights. And all this with the goal of customer growth and the opportunity to acquire, retain, and grow customers over time. Okay, enough of the conceptual and the theoretical. We are now going to be hearing from Katie Merry on using experimentation to drive success at MYOB. Katie, over to you.
Hi, everybody. Just making sure you can all hear me okay. Fantastic. So yeah, my name's Katie Merry. I'm the product manager of analytics at MYOB, and I want to talk to you a bit today about how we've used experimentation to drive success. So for those of you that aren't familiar with MYOB, we provide business management solutions to businesses in Australia and New Zealand, specialising in accounting and payroll. We've been around for a while, for over 25 years, and we have over 1.2 million customers. We also work with 40,000 accountants, bookkeepers and consultants to help provide our services. So Marcus spoke to the importance of combining technology and tools and people and process to help drive customer growth. And I know you're going to be hearing a bit more about the tools a little bit later on. So I wanted to tell you a couple of stories about the sort of processes that we've put around driving results through data by talking about experimentation. So just in terms of what we do use technically, so we use Segment for capturing our user behavior, product usage, and we also have an in-house analytics platform that we use for transforming our data into those that drive those deeper insights that we can then act upon. So yeah, the two stories I've got today, I've got one around experimentation around speed and then another around scale. Both of these are illustrations of how we've used experimentation to drive small increments of results. So both of these are part of larger chains of experimentation. But I wanted to share these stories because they just illustrate by having a culture of continuous improvement that you can, over time, drive those larger results that we're all after. So, to tell you a story about speed. So why is speed important in experimentation? Well, I guess like speed is important in all of business, right? Because the faster you can drive a result, the faster you get your outcomes. Speed is also important in experimentation because by its nature, experimentation may or may not succeed. The strongest hypotheses still don't necessarily drive the result you're after. And so that's a couple of reasons why being able to test at speed is really helpful. So the story I wanted to share today was around a test that we ran. I like to think of it as the Vegemite test because there were some divided opinions. But the beauty of experimentation is that you move from opinions to actual results. And so, yeah, we have for one of our core accounting products, and actually for several of our products, the ability to take out a trial. Like a lot of online software, it's one of our main paths to conversion. And of course, we spend a lot of time trying to optimize that path to conversion. And one of the things we do on that journey is call our customers and encourage them to convert and make sure that they're happy with our product. There was a hypothesis, though, that instead of calling the customer the next day, as we had been doing, that if we called them straight after they signed up, it would be a surprise and delight experience. And that because they were sitting at their computer already, they just engaged with the product, they'd have someone there to help them if they had any questions. And added to that hypothesis, we had some external data that said that actually this had driven results for other companies in other scenarios. And so there was a lot going for this hypothesis. The thing that where opinions were perhaps divided, and you might be sitting there thinking a similar thing, is that is a call as soon as a customer signs up going to be a surprise experience, a surprise and delight experience, or perhaps is it just a surprise? And so yeah, we had opinions divided in the team, but the great thing was that we were able to set up and get this test running relatively quickly and get it out to market, so we could actually just be informed by data. And we learnt fairly quickly that by calling customers in real time, our opinions were divided. It turns out that in a lot of cases, our customers' opinions were divided as well. We did get some really positive feedback that they felt that we were really proactive and it was a really strong experience. But we did also get some feedback that it was perhaps a bit surprising. And the results showed through in the data as well. So we actually found that it drove a slightly lower conversion rate. So it was 0.5% lower. And that was enough to tell us that to optimize our conversion rate, we needed to keep calling them the day after. But it also led to a lot more learnings as we got deeper into the data that led to a series of further experiments to allow us to continually optimize when we were making that call. So that was a story about speed. Now a story about scale. So this is a story about how we've scaled our ability to predict if our customers might be leaving or churning. So when we first implemented Segment, we started capturing some signals, and we were able to build a light churn model, including about 30 signals. And a signal, just to explain the term if you're not familiar with it, although I'm sure many of you are, is simply an indicator in the data that tells us what the customer is doing. So an example could be if a customer has logged in, a very simple example, if a customer has logged into our product recently, perhaps a more complex signal would be having had used a combination of different features or visited a series of different pages in your website or in a product. And so we were able to build that simple model out and start experimenting. And I guess that's really the key to the customer growth. And Marcus spoke to it a bit earlier as well, is that ability to build a model and get some insights, but then actually be able to act on them. And we were able to do that and start to try some different experiments. And we achieved some early success. So we were able to, it was actually an email campaign that we were able to send out, and the result of that intervention was that we drove a 3% incremental retention rate on the group that we targeted. And that initial success allowed us to, again, continue to build on both our model and our capabilities and the sophistication of our experiments. And yeah, importantly, the building out the number of signals through the data that we were capturing in segment, but also that other operational data, so that we now have more than 1,000 signals in our churn modeling and a series of experiments that continue to run. And so in closing, I just wanted to reiterate that by leveraging the speed that tools and technologies provide around customer growth experiments today, as well as the scale, and that continuous culture of ongoing improvement, so that you can basically move at the speed of a marketeer's imagination, which is what we always want to achieve with customer data. We can actually drive success. So thank you very much. I'll now hand over to Edward from Mixpanel.
Great. Thank you so much, Katie. I'm very excited to be here and very happy to be on this panel with some great companies like Servian and Segment. My name is Edward. I lead Mixpanel in Singapore, based out of and handling the APAC region. And I'm very excited to introduce one of our very hopefully happy and long-term customers, in Mike Salway from Domain. Hi, Mike, how are you doing?
Hi, great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I really like the shirt that you're wearing, Mike. I think there's a lot more coming your way after this.
Excellent.
So I would love to talk a little bit of a few questions for you, Mike, to talk a bit about your journey through data analytics, especially in product analytics, how that's shaped your business. And maybe first you could share a little bit about yourself, your team, and what you're responsible for at Domain.
So at Domain, I'm a principal product manager, and we look after the core funnel of the Domain website. So if you're going to Domain and looking to buy or rent property, that's pretty much the whole experience that my teams look after. So, you know, over 5 million users a month use Domain to learn more about property, to look for their homes, look for places to buy and rent.
Awesome. Yeah, I've heard a lot about Domain from some of my colleagues. I know that you guys have been using Mixpanel quite a lot, and you've been doing a lot of different experimentations, a lot of segmentations, understanding that customer journey. Maybe you could walk me through, you know, what is a typical customer journey at Domain, you know, and how do you analyze that journey?
So I guess if, you know, when you go to Domain, you can arrive via SEO. A lot of people start their property search from Google, and we're always optimizing for SEO. There's other cohorts of users that are loyal users, and they'll start from Domain. They know the brand, they'll come to Domain directly and start their search there. You know, once you start your search, you're looking at search results. So you're potentially using filters, you're sorting, you're shortlisting, you're sharing, you're viewing listing pages, and you're deciding whether that property is right for you. You're looking in the gallery, you're reading the description, you're potentially inquiring with agents, you know, going to inspections, that kind of thing. So all of those are key engagement events that we care about, and we want to find out more about what drives the type of behavior we're looking for. You know, for success, that might mean inquiring with an agent or going to an inspection. But we want to know how behavior differs for people coming in via SEO versus the loyal users, or how does behavior differ depending on the device type that you're using. You know, if you're browsing in bed at night at 9 o'clock on mobile web, maybe behavior is not going to be the same as looking at lunchtime on a desktop when you've been to inspections on the weekend. So analyzing those types of behaviors and what users are doing, you know, features to help optimize our UX. How are they sorting? What are they looking at on the page? How can we segment users or create cohorts based on the journey stage of the user, whether they're high intent users or just casual browsers? And, you know, how do we drive people up that engagement ladder to do more of the behaviors that you know, optimize success for our business?
Yeah, that sounds like you have a very, I mean, you have a very complex, I guess, customer journey. You have many, many different engagement points, different ways to segment and understand your customer base and that journey. I can understand that, you know, it can be quite difficult to be able to surface those insights. One of the things that, you know, Mixpanel is built for and we pride ourselves on is the ability to self-serve. You know, how do I allow my team, my product managers, even, you know, my marketers as well to be able to answer, you know, their own questions through the data instead of having to, you know, send their inquiry through a queue and have to wait for a week or two to be able to get insights. My question to you, Mike, is, you know, how has the ability to self-serve improved the way that your team works?
Yeah, it's been critical for us. You know, we have a big data team at Domain. We have, you know, data analytics, data engineers. We have people that look after Tableau and our BI systems, and they're there to create reports and dashboards and help parts of the business. But in product, you want faster answers. You want self-service answers. You don't want to have to wait to come back with a dashboard or a report and then find out, oh, I forgot to ask for this breakdown or this filter, and have to go back into the queue. So the ability to self-service that kind of thing, to give you fast answers, to be immediately able to answer the questions that you want to answer, to look at the results of an experiment literally, you know, a day later, or in some cases even sooner. You know, we can create complex cohorts and use that in funnels, in insights and other reports, you know, immediately. It basically allows us to be autonomous and empowered. You know, we don't have to rely on the data science teams or the data teams to create that for us, and they can work on the more valuable stuff that's valuable for other parts of the business, rather than creating reports and dashboards. So you know, it's critical for us to be able to move fast and answer questions quickly, and Mixpanel has really helped that self-service for us.
That's awesome. That's amazing. I mean, that's literally why we build what we do. And thank you for that insight. In the line of self-service analytics, you know, being able to answer questions yourself probably, you know, allows companies to expand the use of data across different business units, across different teams. I'm interested to hear about your experience at Domain. You know, how have these customer insights become useful not just to product teams, which, you know, traditionally they have been, but to marketing teams, to sales teams, and beyond that?
Yeah, I think telling stories with the data has helped to get buy-in from other stakeholders to drive action and insights as well. Whether that's writing a blog post or showing some insights that you've gained from looking at the metrics, sitting in the sales team meetings, for example, and showing them customer behavior and the type of users that are using our products. Sometimes it's showing a metric moving the right way or the wrong way, or forming a hypothesis that you've seen in the data and drilling deeper into that for upcoming product decisions, for example. But if they can understand more about how our customers are using our data, they can have better conversations with their customers, ultimately the real estate agents, for example, that they're trying to sell Domain to. The engineers always love to see the impact of their work. You know, adding tracking isn't always an engineer's favorite job, but when they can see the results of what they've been adding, they can see who's using that new feature that they just built and what outcomes that's driving. That really helps to get them on board. And in terms of marketing, you know, we can now create great complex cohorts based on inquiry source or other campaigns that they drive, and help them to analyze the performance of those campaigns and get more immediate data than what they've typically been able to see.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, being able to leverage data and make it the unifying force within your company, within multiple teams, right? A lot of times teams don't speak to each other. Maybe their KPIs are quite far apart, so they don't work together, but the data doesn't lie, right? If you're all looking at the same data, you can actually measure, create a KPI that unifies the team together, which is really important. And I guess last question for you, Mike, you know, as you've been down this journey, and I mean, you've been using Mixpanel also at your past company at CoreLogic. Thank you for that too. I guess, how do you see Domain evolving, you know, from here on how you leverage customer data insights?
So I guess for the past year or so, we've mainly been focused on the core funnel of the domain website, and now we're starting to spread Mixpanel throughout other parts of the consumer journey and domain, the home loans area, the owners and sellers area, domain insure, for example. Now we can start to see users move between different parts of the website, and that's critical for our business to see how can we drive more people to our insurance funnel or to our home loans funnel. The B2B products that Domain Group has is untapped at the moment. We're just starting on the journey of adding Mixpanel to those B2B products, and analysing user behaviour or customer behaviour there is critical to helping reduce churn. And like Katie was talking about, it's you know, in the B2B space, understanding what behaviours drive retention, you know, how you can analyse your churn and prevent it, basically. So, you know, whether it's for what features help drive retention, who's not using the product, you know, the CSM team or your customer success team before they go out and visit, you know, who are the evangelists in the office, who's using the products that you've spent all this time building and who's just not using it. So you can modify your onboarding, your tooltips, your training. How do you get people using the features that you know are going to help keep them sticky? And ultimately across domain, you know, once we've got it in place across the whole business, it's about how do we measure results to the outcomes, not just feature usage, but, you know, what's going to drive the business outcomes we're looking for. And, you know, Mixpanel is really going to help us to make those right decisions.
Wow, that's great. I want to thank you again so much, Mike. Like, you've been a shining beacon of hope for us in APAC and one of the early adopters of product analytics. I'm going to pass it over now to Cyril from Segment, who's going to show us a little bit more about the platform and give us a short demo about Segment.
Thanks, Mike, for this great discussion. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and in the meantime, introduce myself. So yeah, so my name is Cyril. I'm one of the two solution engineers at Segment in Australia. I've been at Segment for 18 months now, and basically like really involved into all this discussion around customer data platform. So as Ed mentioned, I'm going to give you like a very quick overview of the Segment platform, focused on the couple of capabilities that we mentioned in the previous discussion. But again, if you want like a full-fledged demonstration of the platform, you are actually free to contact me directly, and happy like to schedule something with you. So as you heard, I mean, like the main capabilities of customer data platform are basically like these three components of collecting the data, of governing your data, but also like being able to create a single view of your customer across different touch points and different apps. So here we are going to focus very quickly on the data collection part first. And what you're looking at right now is actually like an overview of the Segment pipeline. So basically it's pretty easy to understand. On the left side, you have all the touch point connected to Segment. So here it's based on a real estate website, just like Domain, where you have like a website and two different apps and an email platform. And on the right side, you have like all the destination that we can actually activate using Segment. So here the key value point of a Segment platform is this ability to collect the data only once from this particular touch point, but being able to activate a full stack, a full ecosystem of third-party application. As you could see with all this destination on the right, so you just see like a quick sample of the destination that we do support. We do have like more than 300 destinations available in our catalog. But here, as you could see and imagine, basically all these applications rely on the same type of data. And if I look a bit deeper in this particular touch point, which is the website, you can have like a quick overview of the type of data that we actually capture. And this is everything related to the behavior and the identity of your customer. So we have basically like some information around the identity. So who is your customers? what your customer is actually doing on a particular touch point here, and where is your users at the time of the action. So this is like the three group of data that we are actually capturing. So once we have captured this data, we actually store the information on our platform, and then you have like different way to leverage this information. The first is actually by activating one of the destinations that we have here, and this is actually like a very easy process where you just need to actually like input some basic information related to your credentials, and then you just need to activate the switch or deactivate the switch if you want to stop the data flowing to this particular destination. One of the other usage, and this is where you will be actually creating insights, is by using this module that we call personas. And basically personas come in with different modules. The first one is what we call identity resolution. And this is actually like the ability of the platform to stitch multiple identities together from different channels and create this single view of one single view. You will be able actually to visualize all the different attributes for this profile, but also have a complete view of the customer journey and have exactly an understanding of how we stitch all this journey together using unknown and known identities. One information that is also important is this ability to create what we call computed traits, which is like additional insights that we compute in real time based on the customer behavior, but also this ability to create like audiences that you can actually retarget directly after from a segment. And for the last part of the demo, I will actually like show you how we quickly create like an audience. So if I go like in the audience management tool here, you do have actually like 3 audiences that I've already pre-built for the demo, but let's say that I want to build a new one. So here, everything is actually driven by the UI. Like you don't have to be like a technical person to actually like use a segment and get insights from segment. And building a UI is pretty straightforward. So here, you just actually like perform, like select the rules that you want to put in place. So here, let's say that I want to target like an audience of all the people who have installed my the domain mobile app, but actually never opened it. So I will just pick the event application installed at least once in the last 7 days, but then never perform the event application open exactly once, let's say 2 days within the first event. So you can create like funnel audiences, have like actually a preview of the audience here. And you also have this ability to include anonymous users, which is like very important if you want to retarget anonymous audiences you, via some advertising platform like Facebook and Google Ads as well. So we do have like this extra capability that bring and unlock a lot of new use cases. And the last step is actually the ability to synchronize this audience with any of the downstream application that we have. And basically, for example, sending all these profile, all these audiences, all these insights to a tool like Mixpanel in just one click. So here you just have actually to pick the destination that you have to activate. So here Mixpanel, and let's say my advertising platform, and give a name and just create this audience. And again, all the platform is very open, which means that all these profiles, all these insights are also accessible via a profile API, like you can use to personalize like the user experience directly in app or on your website. So that's also something that we do pretty well. So that was like a very short overview of the platform. Again, if you have like any additional questions or want to have like a broader overview of the capabilities, feel free to contact me after this webinar. And now I will hand it over to Edward, who's going to show you actually what this data looks like into Mixpanel.
Great. let me just start my video. All right. Thank you so much, Cyril. Again, back to me. So at Mixpanel, we've created actually a joint instance between Segment and Mixpanel to ingest the data that Cyril had just been showing you. And we have here Mixpanels Dashboard. So Mixpanel as a user analytics platform allows you to understand KPIs and understand trends in your data, helps you to visualize your data sets, and also helps you to decide which cohorts or which segments are interesting and how to act on them. So in this specific example, we have this property listing website, and we've created a few different reports that we want to see on a dashboard. One could be something as simple as how many weekly inquiries am I getting over a certain period of time. One could be what is the percentage of properties that people are saving on their website? Maybe they have some kind of a wish list of properties. In this specific case, what the data is showing me is that this is a really good website. It's 94% of properties searched are being saved. So a very sticky website. And then the last report here is a simple funnel of maybe 4 steps that you would want to view your users taking across the journey on your website. I'll go into these a little bit deeper, but just to give you an idea of the types of reports and dashboards that we can create at Mixpanel. Going into one of these reports, we have a very basic tool called the Insights tool. This is essentially where you build out all your reports and surface all your surface all your data. In the report that I showed you, percentage of properties saved, what I've pulled is a few data points that I've collected from Segment. One is, how many properties are being viewed in total. The other one is, how many properties are being saved. I've created a simple formula to give me a percentage, and I can see the percentage here. Now, where Mixpanel is very powerful and very interesting is the ability to break down your report. So how do I use different data points that I've collected to understand deeper about these KPIs that I've been creating? So in this one, maybe I have breakdowns based on what events they've done, based on specific users, or even based on groups of users, cohorts. So in this case, I've created a cohort called the power user cohort. These are people that have come back to the website 3 times in a week. And I can take a look here and see the differences between power users versus all users. So in this specific case, again, the data is not perfect because it's a dummy data set, but I can see that, power users have saved properties into their wish list 100% of the time versus users that are not, that are all the rest of the users. So I can continue to break down this. I can compare it to dates in the past. I can compare it against other cohorts. The ability to see data and to juxtapose that data across different data points is really the selling point and the power of a product analytics tool like Mixpanel. The next report I'd like to show you guys is an interesting report called the flows. So how do I see what are all the different events and different pathways that my users are taking from a starting point such as session start? And again, this can be totally customized. You can choose it from whatever area or event that you want to see from. But in this case, to give you a wide overview, we have here a flows report starting from session start. And these are the top 5 steps that people are taking after they open up the website. If I want to see what is the optimal path, I can click here and it'll show me after they start the session, 14.2% of people will take a look at the agent phone numbers. And then after that, the next highest step is going to be actually viewing the listing. From here, if I'm interested in more than just 5 steps, I can actually add a step and it'll give me a 6th step so that I can go back and optimize again from the beginning. Step 6 is actually displaying the agent phone number again. Now with this report, I can go back and forth. So maybe I want to, instead of doing session start, maybe I want to start at the end of the funnel. Maybe my end of my funnel is when somebody submits an inquiry, for an agent to reach out to them. and I want to do this with ending with. So when I look at it here and I go back to my first step, starting from this side actually, we start at the end. So inquiry sent, and I can click here and I can see the optimal pathway for people actually submitting an inquiry as well. So there's any number of ways that I can expand this. I can hide events. I can set a certain number of events. What are my top 5 optimal events going from inquiry sent backwards? And this is a great way for you to understand the flow of users and traffic across all your multiple properties. Now, one of the last reports I'd like to show you guys is the funnel report. Now, everyone's probably seen a funnel report before. And in this specific funnel report, we found, these are the 4 types of activities that we want to track people are doing on the actual website. So the first one being, they first performed a search, then they see a listing, then an agency phone number is displayed, and then an inquiry sent, right? That's the logical step that people would take on the website. Now I can see here, this funnel report is showing me that across this whole funnel, I have about a 30% conversion rate going from step 1 to step 4. I can see, what are the different conversion rates across different areas of the funnel as well too. And even here, there's a little bit of machine learning or surfacing insights for you, where if I click find interesting segments, it'll actually email me with a group of segments and cohorts that are outside of the standard deviation of the conversion rate. So you can surface a few interesting cohorts that maybe you weren't thinking about before. Now with this funnel, what's interesting is that I can actually go in and try to understand who are the people that are in these certain areas of the funnel. So let's say right here, I'm seeing a lot of drop off at step 3, right? I have this group of users that are coming in at step 3, they're dropping off. I can actually click here and then turn this little box of dropped off users into a cohort. So I want to create a cohort here. It's describing to me what the cohort is about. Just call this test cohort. And then I can save this cohort. I can go and look at this cohort in a list. So these are all the different cohorts that I've created. You can see I've created casual user cohorts. I've created power user cohorts. In this certain situation, here's my test cohort that I've seen. I can see there's 181 people in this cohort. What I could do is I can actually look at the individual users in this cohort. I can visualize the trend. So I can see whether this cohort number is going up or going down over a certain period of time. And in this specific test case, what I'd like to do is actually integrate this cohort back into Segment so that more data can be ingested from the Segment side. So what I would do is I would just export this, and we have an upcoming integration, bi-directional integration with Segment coming soon. So I'll be able to send this specific cohort of these people in step 3 of my funnel that I want to understand better, send it back to Segment, and get more data ingested into that segment, into that cohort, so that I can understand them and maybe actionize them or message them, or however the person would like to activate this data, right? So this is just a very high level overview of Mixpanel, especially with the integration with Segment across some of our key tools. There's a lot more, and like Cyril said, we're happy to walk you through a more in-depth demo and show you a bit more about the platform. But I think for this specific webinar, I think this is a pretty good understanding of how data analytics and how a CDP like Segment can help us understand and surface insights much faster. So I'm going to send it actually back to Marcus, and I think we're going to set up a very quick Q&A with our remaining time.
No worries. Thank you very much, Edward. Let me just reshare. Great. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've got some questions that have come in. I'll just read these out, and then if our panelists like to just jump in and answer them, that'd be fantastic. Okay, so the first question, this is for you, Katie. Do MYOB have their own experimentation user behavior analytics tool, or do you use third-party tools like Mixpanel or Amplitude? And also, what's your opinion regarding the pros and cons of building your own tool?
Yeah, so I guess to answer the second part first, I don't recommend building your own. We don't have our own experimentation tool. We do use third-party tools, and I think that the most important thing though is that the experimentation tool integrates easily with the rest of your customer growth stack. So, and that's where Segment can be really helpful, because it can consume data, for example, from our analytics platform, and make it available to experimentation tools.
Thanks, Katie. Cyril, I've got a question for you regarding, can you recap the relationship between Segment and Mixpanel?
Yeah, sure. So the thing with like Segment and Mixpanel, you must see Segment as an accelerator and a facilitator when it comes to implement like a new analytics tool for like Mixpanel. So for example, I take like a very common example situation that we have with customers who have been using Google Analytics for years, and today they want also to use in parallel like something a bit more modern, a bit more advanced in terms of analytics, like Mixpanel. So if they have segments in place, basically, and they are collecting the data for GF via segment, they have this ability actually like to activate this Mixpanel destination in only like a few minutes. When you don't have segment in place, you do have actually like to rebuild all this tracking directly in every single touch point. So the first actually like key value point is being like an accelerator for Mixpanel. And the second thing, and this is like a part of the demo that we couldn't show due to the time, is the fact that Segment also have this governance and data quality layer upstream that will actually like help you to put some quality rules in place at the very beginning of your data collection pipeline, just to make sure that all the insights, all the data that we send to a tool like Mixpanel are actually like completely clean and aligned with your expectation and how things actually should be tracked across your tech stack. So here I would say that beside being like a facilitator, it's this ability also to be a data quality firewall or a answer in terms of good data.
Great, thanks, Cyril. I've got a question for you, Mike, here. Do you have any tangible examples of where yourself or your team have found interesting or surprising insights from your data, and subsequently use that data to drive and make improvements?
Yeah, we've got it's a good example I like talking about. We found from our SEO team that a lot of traffic came into our school catchment pages. It was an area that we didn't invest heavily in the past, and we could see that there's a fair amount of Google traffic coming into our school catchment pages, and we found, you know, that cohort of users might be something to explore. So we built out a whole bunch of new school-related features for property hunting parents. So new data, searching for schools from the homepage, improving the UX, and using Mixpanel, we're able to analyze the results of those cohorts, people that come in via SEO looking for school catchments or using the schools-related features on domain, and found that they, you know, have 2 to 3 times more inquiry rates, retention rates, etc. So it's a great example of how we can, you know, measure the success of initiatives, but also find insights in the data by drilling down into specific cohorts.
Great. And I've got another one here for you, I believe. What are the key capabilities would you say are key to having your customer data stack? Any advice for others who are at the early stage of their journey or evaluating solutions?
It's a good question. You need to definitely plan before you just start implementing it. What I recommend to other teams within domain now, as I'm spreading Mixpanel usage throughout domain, is start with a single event. There's a lot of, you know, I guess platformy type work that you've got to get set up, like your super properties and things like that. But even just with a single event, one of your most valuable events, whether it's a login event or a viewing of a listing, for example, you can already start to learn a lot about your audience, what type of device they use, when are they most busy, that kind of thing, where are they coming from. So just starting with a single event is key, but you need to plan what your naming schema is going to be, what properties you want to send with each event. Mixpanel is a lot better these days in terms of letting you change events on the fly, or you know, combine several events into one and hide events that you don't want anymore. But it's better to plan it up front and make sure it's consistent across all of the teams that want to roll out Mixpanel.
Beautiful, thank you, Mike. Katie, how do you think the current COVID-19 situation globally might change the way you use and work with your customer data? A bit of an interesting one there for you.
Yeah, it's interesting when sort of doing this talk in this COVID world. It's like, yeah, what will change? I think COVID's actually a really it's a test of how well we're implemented already. So I think, I mean, you know, if you've got good predictive modeling in place and good culture around what you're trying to around like driving success, then you should be able to adapt to the new environment. And I think that is that COVID is like with those business events, you don't know what's going to change and you can't predict it. But you can, if you've got sort of the right processes in place, then you can really, it'll test our ability to respond to the market. But I don't think it'll change. It'll just shine a light on how well we can do it today.
Mike, have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, it's been, you know, obviously the world's flipped upside down in terms of real estate over the last few weeks, with no longer able to attend inspections, auctions, etc. And so Domain has rolled out a bunch of new initiatives to support agents and users for conducting online inspections, virtual inspections, private one-on-ones, etc. And so making sure we add tracking with all of those features that we've added to find out what the success of those initiatives is, who's actually using them, and is it helping our customers, you know, is it helping our users? So it's been critical to have that tracking in place at the time where we're moving very fast and rolling out these new initiatives. So it's certainly something we haven't skimped on in terms of, you know, speed to market's been key, but making sure we add tracking to find out, you know, whether it's being used and helping customers has been critical.
Beautiful, thank you, Mike. Yes, interesting times, changing times. Okay, I've got another one here for Mike and Katie, most likely again. When did you realize that there was a need for you to look at using tools like Segment and Mixpanel to support your ability to understand your customers better?
I used Mixpanel in my previous job as was mentioned before at CoreLogic, so when I started at Domain, it was one of the first things I tried to do is get Mixpanel into the company as well. And it was mainly about, like I answered in the interview questions, autonomous and empowered product teams to be able to answer questions quickly, to be able to look at results of experiments, to analyze user behavior. There was tracking in place before I started at Domain, and it goes to GA and it goes to internal BI systems as well, but it's just a lot harder to get the data out, and that's where, you know, Mixpanel excels.
Absolutely. I'd add to that from a segment perspective, that I guess we had a need, and in this space, the tools are constantly evolving, and everyone's kind of, evolving over time. And what the thing that really drove us towards Segment was around the ability to connect to different tools, and to actually be able to quickly and easily experiment with different tools for analytics, for experimentation, and for other purposes. And so really that ability to integrate our data across and experiment with different tools is kind of that need was really what drove our decisions around Segment.
Great, thank you very much. I found the mute button at last. Can I just, I've got another question here. What are the main benefits of sending data from Mixpanel back to Segment?
Yeah, I can take this one as well. So yeah, it might be like a little bit like confusing to see like actually like cohorts being sent back to a Segment when you can actually like also create like audiences within Segment. But one use case that we had in mind when we built this functionality is the fact that a tool like Mixpanel is pretty advanced in terms of analytics, and you can use like, for example, Mixpanel predictive capabilities to build cohorts, something that you may not be able to do in Segment because we are not like an analytics platform. But in the meantime, this cohort that you build in Mixpanel might be useful for some of the downstream applications that are connected to your CDP, like advertising or DMPs and so on. So here we give actually like a bridge between Mixpanel advanced capabilities and Segments in terms of how you can activate and target these cohorts.
Great, thank you, Cyril. Hey, is there any other good examples of these tools being used in a B2B context rather than the B2C, obviously, other than MYOB?
I can answer from my own experience in terms of CoreLogic was a B2B platform and incredibly useful for the same reasons as Katie mentioned. But you know, I guess the main difference is when I explain it to internal teams at Domain is when you're dealing with over 5 million consumers a month, it's a lot about, and most of them are anonymous, it's all about the percentages and funnels and cohorts and that kind of thing. In the B2B world, it's much more critical because you know who the users are. They're actually logging in, so you know what account they're in, what franchise group they're in, what industry group they're in. It rolls up to all the different levels that mimic your organization structure or your sales structure, what pricing tier they're on, what plan, that kind of thing. So it's much more beneficial to be able to break down by those kind of properties as well. So it's critical at CoreLogic for all the reasons I mentioned before in terms of analyzing, you know, retention and that kind of thing.
Beautiful, thanks, Mike. I've got a final question here, and it is, what is the benefit of using Segment to track the event rather than tools like Google Tag Manager?
So yeah, very good question. This is like a very, very common question when we start discussing with customers. So one of them, like from a pure technical standpoint, both tools can look like very similar. But actually, I mean, like from a pure technical standpoint, again, one of the main differences is the fact that Google Tag Manager is like purely client side, which means that all the tags that you fire are fired directly on the client. When at Segment, our vision is actually to fire like as much as we can from the cloud, which means that at the end of the day, what's happening is like you load less SDKs, less libraries from your different touch points. So that's basically like from a pure tagging and collection standpoint. But another thing that you have to keep in mind is like Segment is a full CDP platform, which means that there is a lot of things also happening after the collection pipeline. We show you like how to build audiences, how to build insights. I talk about the governance piece as well. So there is a lot of things that doesn't exist in GTM that is actually like the main core value and core capabilities of a Segment platform.
Great, well that concludes our Q&A session. Thank you very much for everyone who attended. Thank you very much, Katie, Mike, Cyril, and Edwards for being panelists today. Really appreciate your time. Thank you everyone for joining. Stay safe out there and hopefully see you all next time. Thank you very much.